Hello, everybody joining. Welcome to the webinar. We'll get started in a few minutes. We're so happy to have you on board. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. As you're joining, why don't you in the chat room, go ahead and let us know where you're calling in from, your name, your organization, so that we can get a sense of who's online today. But welcome, we'll get started in just a little bit. We have North Dakota, Illinois. I always love seeing where everybody is coming from. And we have such a great panel today. New York, Maine. Wow, all over the North America. It's great. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a few minutes. People are still signing on. Happy you could join us today. Hi, everyone. We'll get started in 30 seconds. Go ahead and enter your name and where you're calling in from, your organization, and then we'll get started. So happy you could join us. We have early childhood, Sheila. We have people from all over. Brookfield Zoo, Ray. Okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Judy Brous, and I'm the Executive Director of the North American Association for Environmental Education, and really excited that you could be here for today's webinar about thinking outside and how nature-based education can help schools reopen safely. And we'll be talking about a lot of different examples of how that is happening and how we're thinking about that. And as I'm doing this quick introduction, I'd also like you to, in the chat room, think about the last great experience you had outside and enter it into the chat. Just see what you've done outside during the last few months that really resonated with you. What we're going to be talking about today, of course, is how we can rethink education. This is from our friends in Maine, of thinking about outside of school, how to provide learning opportunities for every learner so that they have outdoor experiences, that teachers have training, that we use our outdoor spaces, and all these components lead to a healthier and more sustainable and equitable future. And that's what we're trying to talk about today, given we're in the middle of a pandemic that is not easing up yet at all. So how do we reimagine education right now? How do we think about how to use the outdoors? How do we make sure nature is part of the solution? And you'll hear from Sarah and the team of some of the work that already is going on about how we can do this safely, some of the guidelines, and really excited today to have Sarah Bodor on our team at NAAE, who's our Director of Policy and Affiliate Relations, to moderate this amazing panel, who you will hear from in a minute, and Sarah will be introducing each of them. I also want to give a big thank you to our affiliate co-hosts who help sponsor our webinar series. If you are not familiar with affiliates in your state or province or region, please look them up and get involved. That's how to get involved at the state and provincial and regional level. And I know we always have new people on our webinars, and we want to welcome you as well as those of you who have been on here before. but we're trying to bring new ideas and insights to the field, new speakers, new thinking, new ways of looking at the work we all do and helping us all grow and think about the future. I know that you've been on a million Zoom calls, but there are always a few people that don't know how to work a different system. So very quickly, you communicate with us, as you know, through the chat system, and you can either send a message to everyone or just the panelists that are on video right now. And there's a drop-down menu. And everybody is muted because we have so many people online. And please type your questions in throughout. If somebody says something and you want to know more about it, type it in. If you have a resource that you think everybody would enjoy, go ahead and type that in. So we're really looking forward to hearing the chat, because that's as inspiring as the speakers sometimes, because we're all sharing ideas. And I also want to thank our captioner, Jenna. We do live captioning so that anybody that needs help with the audio can really understand the important things that are being discussed. I also want to thank Anne, who is our webinar and professional development guru. If you need help, just send a note to her in the chat or to me. And Anne is our professional development director and the manager of EE360. And now I am so excited to be able to introduce our moderator for today, Sarah Bodar. Sarah is our director, as I mentioned before, of policy and affiliate relations. And I feel so lucky to work with Sarah. She is an incredible colleague and friend. She has so much experience in environmental education, policy, writing, editing, and is one of the best strategic thinkers I've ever worked with. And it's been just such a pleasure to work with her. At NAAE, she works with environmental educators and our affiliates across North America to identify policy initiatives, to build stronger networks, and to share learning across boundaries. She came to us from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, where she helped with educational outreach, communication, and development. She was the one that led the No Child Left Inside grassroots coalition that had more than 2,200 organizations focused on generating public and private support for the development of statewide environmental literacy plans. And she also developed the report in Maryland that led to the nation's first high school graduation requirement for environmental literacy. I could go on for a couple of hours, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah, to lead this amazing panel and discussion that all of us are looking forward to.
Thank you, Judy. I am going to just take a quick minute to share my screen. Oh, there we go. So I am not going to talk for very long. It's great to be here with all of you today. I really want to get to the main event, which is our awesome panel, who I will introduce in just a moment. But Judy did mention some of the work that we've been doing over the spring in thinking about how environmental education programs can support educators, teachers, and families as they think about their plans for reopening schools. And so, like so many of you, back in March, when most states had some level of shelter in place going into effect, many of our affiliates began immediately hosting networking calls and listening sessions with the goal of just hearing from education programs in their network about how they were adapting to these changing and abrupt circumstances, and what ideas they had for continuing their work going into the summer and the fall. And so in partnership with a bunch of our affiliate leaders, we created this document providing some guidance for reopening schools. And, this is kind of a dynamic and ever-changing situation, as you all know. So the idea with this guidance document was really to provide a very wide range of flexible recommendations that address kind of a variety of learning situations and environments that would help schools, educators, and families continue to incorporate outdoor learning and environmental education into the school day, wherever that school day might be taking place. I think if you're on this webinar today, you're probably here because you already know how important access to nature and time in the outdoors is to our mental health and well-being, and certainly in this time when we all need stress reduction. It's going to be really important for kids at every age to continue to have those really meaningful, enriching experiences with the out of doors, opportunities to interact in structured and unstructured ways with the natural world. and also how important environmental education in particular is to our students' academic success and to their social and emotional development. So recognizing that depending on state and local safety and health guidelines, that schools may be physically reopening, schools may be approaching the fall with a somewhat of a hybrid model where it's sometimes kids are at home learning remotely and sometimes they are physically on site with a teacher. And many schools are opening fully remote this fall. And so again, this bulleted list kind of gives you a sense of the categories of recommendations. We do know that recommendations like these are just kind of words on paper until someone actually starts to implement them, and that there's a lot of sort of tips and guidance out there right now. A lot of it points to using the outdoors as something that schools should be considering, but there aren't a lot of really good concrete tips for how to do that, or a lot of good models for programs and schools to look at. So that's kind of the purpose of our panel here today, is to actually look at some of the ways that programs are maintaining flexibility, creativity, innovating, and centering equity as they think about how to continue providing the services and programs that they offer to their communities, and how that might be informing what their plans are for the future. We want to hear from you too about the kinds of things that you're doing. So whether it's in the chat or reaching out to our team after the fact through this webinar, we'd love to start to build out a little library of case studies. So if you have some ideas and innovations that we can help share with a broader network, please reach out. And with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to our awesome panel. I'm so excited to have these really different, diverse programs from across the country represented here today. They are gonna speak in order, and then when they're done giving sort of a short overview of their programs and the ways that they are managing in the time of COVID-19, we'll have a Q&A. So while they're talking, feel free to go ahead and start jotting your questions down in the chat box. Thanks to those of you who have submitted questions in advance. We already have a really great list of questions, and we'll be able to dig into some of the details with them after their presentations. So with us today, we have Sheila Williams-Ridge. She's the director of the Lab School at the University of Minnesota. We have Serenella Linares, who is the virtual programs manager at Audubon Naturalist Society. Not surprisingly, her program title was previously school programs manager, but she has a new title now, thanks to our current circumstances. And finally, we have Keith DeRosier, who's the executive director at Thorn Nature Experience. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen so that you can actually see our speakers and turn it on over to Sheila to get us started.
Thanks, Sarah, and thank you, Judy, for introducing us. I'm super excited. I read over the guidelines, and this is just a great time for educators to re-envision what school is. We all know that there's no one right way to navigate this. It really depends on our communities, the culture of our environment, what resources we have. So I'm very excited to share with you a little bit about our program. So, you know, we've known for a long time that schools aren't always set up to meet the needs of every child, either developmentally or culturally. Sometimes big class sizes, or too much sitting down, or not enough experiential learning opportunities. So we're hoping to use this COVID opportunity that we have been thrown into